Welcome back to Notre Dame Day. I'm Emily Evans, and joining me now is Father Daniel Groody, a Holy Cross priest, Associate Professor of Theology, and Director of the Immigration Initiative at the Institute for Latino Studies at Notre Dame. Father Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I understand you're working on an initiative called STREAM. Can you tell us about the main aspects of that and how it relates to your work on migrants and migration?
Sure. Well, Emily, we live in an age of migration, and there are probably 250 million people migrating around the world. And so our question is, how can Notre Dame play a more active role in migration and refugee issues? So we're working at different borders. We're at the Syrian borders right now, working with ISIS refugees. We're with people fleeing the violence over there in the Middle East from the war. We're working at the U.S.-Mexico border. We've been working as well in Rwanda with people that were fleeing genocide. And we're asking questions as theologians and as concerned people to say, how do people find hope in the midst of the most hopeless of circumstances? How do they find the capacity to believe in the most unbelievable of situations? And how do they really find the strength to love in the midst of the most godless of situations? So we're doing studies in this, and we're working on STREAM, which means Studies in Trafficking, Refugees, and Migration. So through that, we are building a STREAM team. We actually have some STREAM themes. We're actually now trying to really build a dream team for STREAM. And ultimately, our hope is to really be a presence that can help redeem sort of an inhumane situation and to try to inject more humanity into this really difficult issue.
And we're living in an age of migration, like you touched on, especially forced migration and people fleeing crises in various places around the world. What can Notre Dame do to respond to these issues?
Notre Dame is trying to do a lot. Notre Dame is trying right now to open the doors to people for education. Right now we have some people who are studying here who otherwise couldn't previously. There are people, we're trying to have conferences, we're trying to have publications. But more than that, we're trying to be a life-giving force. And so right now what we're trying to do is dream with STREAM to really ask even more how we can make a difference. We're working with our bishops, we're working with Congress, we're working with international agencies. But in all of this, we're trying to be some kind of leaven of life.
And I understand you're working on a project about migration and the Eucharist. Can you tell us about that?
I'm working on a couple of books. One is on migration and the Eucharist, but another is a very fascinating project related to that. And we're actually working with forensic anthropologists who are finding bones in the Texan desert. And these are migrants who are crossing, and they're dying. And after they die, animals really tear apart their remains. But working with forensic anthropologists, we're identifying the DNA and then matching those with databases in sending countries to try to find out who their families are so that we can actually interview those families and then put stories behind the bones and then faces behind the stories. And so the Eucharist project is all about trying to build networks of solidarity. Each year at the U.S.-Mexico border, they have a common mass where half the communities in Mexico, half the communities in the United States, and they join the altar together at the fence. And so it's really about a testimony of the church's solidarity with people on other sides of borders. And so we're trying to reflect on that reality and address that.
All right, Father Daniel, that's pretty exciting, and thank you so much for sharing your important work with the Notre Dame family.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, we'll be right back after the break.